welcome everybody. Today we're going to be talking about community, a much misunderstood and maligned word in social, but something that we're super passionate about and we think is a big part of the future of what brands are going to be doing. First, who am I? Your host? Yeah, James Nord. I started this company. I don't know really what else to say in these times. I can carry, I'm confident enough to carry 3 Negronis in a white tuxedo. That's saying something. One of my friends said that this was the bravest thing I had ever done in my life, which is probably true. So I started Fohr almost 10 years ago. I think 10 years ago, we were working on the prototype for Fohr. So I've been working in this industry as a very early Tumblr kid, early influencer, if you could call it that, back in like 2008. So a very long time ago. And again, launched Fohr about 10 years ago. We were the first influencer marketing platform in the world. So we've been doing this for quite some time. So we're talking about community today. And I think that I want to start with this quote, which I love. If you want to build a ship, don't drum up the people to gather wood, divide the work, and give orders. Instead, teach them to yearn for the vast and endless sea. I don't share this just because I'm like, some like little reformed emo kid that's into obscure, strange quotes. But I think that, as we think about community, really the first thing we have to answer is why? Why would anybody join it? And I think that's especially true now. Social has changed so much, even in the last 10 years. It is so much harder for brands to grow a following. It is so much harder for brands to build community. And a big part of the reason is that people have other communities that they can join, and they have other people that they can follow. And I think consumers are generally just less interested in engaging with a brand on social. They're less interested in kind of joining a brand's community. And so, if you take anything from the kind of beginning part of this, and we're going to get into all the amazing kind of panelists we have towards the end, but if you get anything from my kind of presentation, I think it's like, this is the most important, right? You have to define for yourself, why should they join this? Why are they interacting with this community? Why are they going to identify with a community that you're going to build around their brand? Why should they stay? A lot of people join communities. A lot of people are passionate about brands, and a lot of them eventually kind of leave. Why should they stay? Why should they stay engaged? And one of the most important parts for growing it is you need your community members to be actively growing your community. You need those network effects to fit in, to kind of kick in. You need the people who are passionate about your brand and are engaging in that community to pull other people in. So the experience for them has to be so valuable and so so unique that they literally are telling their friends that they should engage with it as well, right? And if you can get that, that's obviously gold standard. That's where we want to be. Advertising is changing. Why you should focus on this is, I think it's going to be a core part of, again, how people find out about brands. If you were part of our kind of earlier webinars, we talked about this at length. We can share a link when we send the email out about it. But we talked about this whole shift in advertising from brands owning their story and telling their stories to consumers telling those stories, right? So in the next 5 to 10 years, most people are going to find out about new brands, not from brands themselves and from that advertising, but from other people, right? And so your job becomes, how do I get more people talking about my brand? And how do I kind of curate and control and guide the messaging and the story that people are telling about my brand? This is I think a really exciting new part of advertising. If you think of these kind of opt-in marketing channels, right? Places where people literally raise their hand and say, please market to me, right? Which is rare, and certainly what we want. We want people to come to us and say, yes, I'm interested in your products, and I'm ready to get your advertising, right? So if you look way back, you've got catalog subscribers, you've got email marketing in the early 2000s, social media in 2010. all of those things, they took a long time to build. Like for a brand to build their email list, if there's any, I'm sure there's some startup founders here in the audience, and it's hard. It is something you have to think about every day. How am I going to build my email list up? What am I going to give these people? And then, how am I going to market to them? Certainly the same with social, right? Building that following is hard, but if you can build it, it's hugely powerful, right? Email marketing is still an enormous driver of e-commerce sales. So building these communities can, be massively profitable and helpful for your business. I think ambassadors and community building is kind of the next part of that, right? That this is the next opt-in channel that's going to be huge. You have to build a big community of people who are excited about your brand and talking about it. And I think what's so unique and different about building this type of community in this day and age is if we look at all the other kind of older forms of this in catalog, email, and social, it was one way, right? I am signing up to be marketed to. But with community, they are signing up to be marketed to, yes, but they're also signing up to then spread that message to their audience, right? And so you have this amazing opportunity, again, to be able to touch hundreds of thousands, millions, hundreds of millions, billions of people, if you build large enough communities and if you get them excited about your brand. This can also be a huge cost saver. If we think about a brand where you say, look, I feel like to reach my goals, I need to have 100 million impressions on social a year, right? That's kind of where we're looking to go. And if you look at where you're at right now, you're, let's say, paying for 80 million of those in sponsored posts, and 20 million of them are happening organically. But if over the next 5 years or a couple of years, whatever it might be, you can shift that and you can say, okay, I'm going to really invest in building this community, in kind of giving people a reason to get excited about the brand and to talk about it more often. And I'm going to focus on perks and all these other things that I can do for people. And you can shift that and say, now I am spending, 30, I'm getting 30 million impressions on sponsored and 70 on organic, you're saving $1 million a year. So there's a real cost savings to focusing on this. And there's a cost to not focusing on this. I looked at Glossier, I was interested a couple of years ago when they were getting hit on their sales, which was surprising because they were so dominant in influencer marketing for so many years. And I looked at the number of mentions of Glossier on the Fohr platform over the last 3 years. And you see these, I think this is like a 300% decline, right? So they were getting, 300 million impressions a year organically on the platform. That's down under 100 million. And so you can see that also taking the impact that that's had on sales. They've had a 20-something% decrease in sales. I think that a lot of that is probably driven by kind of not focusing on community as much as you should. As you think about community for a brand, again, it's hard. What are the ways that we can build community? What are the things that can kind of bring people together? One is product love. Telfar does a great job with this, right? Like people just love their products. They're crazy about them. And they do a great job of kind of encouraging that. And they've built a really great community around that. I think something that they do so well is sharing customer photos on their feed. They have access to celebrities and models and all this other stuff, but they really focus on the community. It can be value aligned, right? You can build a community for your brand around a shared set of values. Coco Kind is clean beauty. I think they do a pretty good job of kind of pulling together clean beauty fans and creating this space to talk about clean beauty more broadly, not just necessarily their products. It can be something around early adopters. I'm a cyclist and was an early adopter of Rafa, which was a cycling brand that came about in the 2008 or so. It was doing things really different. And in the early days, because it was such a small brand that not a lot of people knew about, wearing Rafa really meant something, and for me as a cyclist, wearing Rafa was a big part of my identity, and I loved what they were doing, and being part of something early can be really exciting. So that's something you can focus on, or a shared experience, right? Is there a shared experience that your customers are going through that you can give education, insights, and support on Kindbody. Does a lot of content around infertility and IVF, and they have a really great community around some of those issues, and they do a lot to invest in giving their audience value there. So really quickly, some kind of general points on community and things that we believe. This is kind of a mantra for us here at Fohr. Brands shouldn't spend good money on fake love. This is for sponsored posts regardless, right? Like, shouldn't be paying people to pretend to like your brand that don't. You should really be leaning into those people that already love your brand. That's going to work a lot more. Community building is a hedge against future influencer investments. If you can invest now in building a vibrant community, it means 5 years from now, you can spend less money on sponsored posts. And again, you're always going to need a level of sponsored content to, support your initiatives and go into new markets. So like, we're not talking about obviously reducing that down to zero, but increasing the amount of organic coverage that you're getting. We already talked about how this is kind of the future at large. Really important. The community exists to serve the members, not the brand, right? If you are trying to start a community just so that you can sell more stuff, it's probably not going to work, right? It's got to be rooted in that why. And that community is there so that the people who are part of it can derive value from it, not so that the brand can derive value from it. If this isn't central to what you're doing, it's not going to work. These communities need to be engineered and nurtured and planned, right? Again, like sometimes I think, especially if it's something around like really deep product love, they can just kind of pop up. But even that happening, you still then need to direct it and engineer it and nurture it. You think about it like watering a plant, right? Like you need to every day water the plant, and you can do that for years and your plant can grow. But then if you ignore it for a month, it will die. Communities are the same way. They need constant nurturing and attention to make sure that they stay active. They need to be collaborated, not dictated, right? Like when you start a community as the brand, you are the leader of that community, but there's also going to be customer leaders there. There's going to be people in the community who are seen as leaders. You need to listen to them, and you need to collaborate with them. And this is something I think you see like Peloton is really, I think, slipped on, is that they had this amazing community and they just didn't listen to it. I was talking to Sophie, who's on our team, about it, and saying that, people were asking for a pause button for years and they just kind of ignored it. And it's those little things, that eventually erode the community and make people leave. So you have to collaborate with them. Your social media following is not a community, right? That's your following. That's like your email list, right? An email list is not a community. So you need to think of new ways to engage with them, new places. We're going to talk about that with Cole right after this. And strong communities can't be managed, right? A great community is going to take on its own life, and it's going to hold you accountable. It's going to ask things from the brand. This is a relationship. Starting a community means you're trying to start a deeper relationship with your customers. Relationships are not always rosy. Sometimes your friend calls you out on something, and if as a brand you're not willing to have that be a part of your relationship with your customers, again, this isn't going to work. Okay. I zoomed through some of that, but that I think is a good primer for 3 short conversations that we're going to have with Cole, Olivia, and April. Instead of doing a panel where everyone's fighting to talk over each other, we really wanted to focus on specific things that I think each of these panelists are doing as far as building, nurturing, growing communities, how they look at it. And I think, all 3 of them are doing really great things. I'm super excited to talk to them, feel very lucky to have them here. We are going to then take 10 minutes at the end and have questions for everyone. So if you've got questions, keep putting them in the Q&A, and we will get to them towards the end. But with that, let's bring Cole on. Okay, hello, Cole. So
hey, Jay.
Cole is an amazing creator and writer. He's in the advertising space and does like way too much. I actually, like, when I was first talking to Cole, I was just like, why are you doing another thing in your life? You're like, at what point will it be enough? But is not only active on TikTok and Instagram, but has taken it a step further and has created a community in this group chat app, Geneva. We're going to talk all about that. Welcome, Cole. Hello.
Hey, glad to be here. Thanks for having me, James. Hi, everyone.
So let's start and say, okay, it's pretty niche what you do, right? In the community side of things. And what made you kind of start to say, oh, let's take this a step further. And instead of just focusing on building my following in TikTok and Instagram, let's take the existing following and like engage with those super users, those people who are really engaged, and build a community around that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, like most good ideas, I feel like this one came from my following, from my fans. I posted a video on TikTok about wanting to personally increase my fashion literacy. That kind of went baby viral on the app, and was going through some of the comments. And one person, a few people actually, said they wanted to, have a similar goal of increasing their fashion literacy. And one follower in particular recommended our creating a group chat where we could all do so together. And so with that, did some research and found this platform, Geneva, who frames themselves as a chat app for communities, to be the destination for some followers and fans to get together and geek out on fashion.
And, I mean, what made you, I think like you must have kind of been a bit nervous about like, oh, is this going to be a lot of other work? Again, you're already working full-time, doing side gigs and running a TikTok and Instagram account. So, what kind of pushed you over the edge and said, this is something that if my audience is asking for it, I'm interested in kind of diving into and seeing what happens?
Yeah, I think initially I just saw that the demand was there, and it was going to be something that I wanted to experiment with and see what form it could take. That video had like a few 100,000 views, so I had a sense that people were in a similar boat, and just thought, what's the harm in giving it a shot? I had no sense of how much work it would be to create and maintain, and it turns out it actually isn't that much work to do.
And I talked about in the little slide deck there about how these communities can kind of take on a life of their own, and they can't necessarily, I think when they're working, they can't necessarily be fully managed, right? What's it like in a day in this community, right? Are you starting all the conversations? Like, yeah, how is that growing?
No, far from it. And actually, this morning, I actually apologized to the home for being a little absent the past couple of weeks. I was traveling for a bit. But essentially, just for context, how we've structured the home, Geneva calls these homes. There are probably 6 or 7 rooms. Each has a dedicated topic and purpose. Some are, for daily fit checks, celebrity spottings, sharing resources, red carpets, things along those lines. And because of that, everyone has, a room within the home that they're more, that they gravitate towards a little bit more. And so no need for prompts or anything like that. Folks just know what room they have to go to share their thoughts on XYZ topic. So it really, after a while, it takes on a life of its own once the structure is there.
And why, why build this out on a group chat? Again, like, why not create content around it and have people engaging in the comments? I know, especially on TikTok, the comments are where a lot of people are getting value. Why take it off that platform? What made you decide to do that?
Yeah, I think having a dedicated place for the conversation, it helps engage with your followers, or for me anyway, engage with my followers in a new way. I'm very big on responding back to comments. I try to do so whenever I can, but because I have now this, chat ecosystem, I can chat with my followers in real time over a prolonged period. And that level of engagement really matters to me. And for some of them, it matters a lot to them too.
And, how do you think about, the size of this community versus, again, what you're doing on social? Like, how do you think about growing it, but keeping it, valuable for the people inside that community? And generally, I guess an extension of that is like, how do you like engineer like people getting value out of this so that they keep coming back and engaging?
Yeah, I guess size on the home isn't the most important to me. I view it as a destination for my most engaged followers and people who care about fashion. So I know that's not going to be every single person that follows me on TikTok. And so because of that, I feel like that's allowed me or enabled me to be a little more thoughtful with how we scale it. I think right now we're at, I should check, probably 250 members in the home, and there are probably 200 plus outstanding requests to join it. But very early on, I was just apprehensive about opting everyone in or allowing everyone in right off the jump because I wanted to protect the integrity of the space and let things grow organically.
And you actually have like a kind of an application to join it, right? It's not just
Yeah.
again, you've got some of that pending, and I know you slowly kind of grow it over time, but you've asked people to fill out an application.
Yeah, application is probably too strong a word. Just ask them to confirm where they're based and who their style inspirations are, so I can try to ensure that they at least have a marginal interest in fashion and style.
Um, so obviously we're talking about brands here, right? And you're out there creating really fun content around fashion lifestyle for people, and you've built up this audience, and I think it makes sense that, okay, you've got these kind of more engaged fans that you can pull into this community, and they're already all interested in fashion, so they can talk about fashion, right? um, for brands, again, like it's harder, right? Because like a lot of people don't want to be friends with a brand. They don't maybe feel some of that connection. But what do you think, as you've started to this community, what do you think brands can learn, and what would be some advice to them, and if they were interested in starting to play with like more explicit community building?
Yeah, I think to your point, it's a little different from a creative perspective to a brand perspective, but I think overall, if you create a place, a destination for your most engaged followers and fans to join, most likely they'll opt in. Even on the brand side, we probably, most community managers can probably, shout out a list of accounts that comment on every video or apply to every video. Those people are probably in some way looking for more. And so if you create, the channel, the platform, they'll opt in most likely. Um, and then I guess on a separate point, I feel like accounts like an Instagram and TikTok, it's very easy to have a sense of brand control. We own all the content that's going out on those feeds. With a chat-based platform or channel, you have to be willing to, I guess, loosen the reins a little bit more because you own a piece of the content that's going to go out there, but you can't control the message, every message that everyone's going to share within that channel and the community. So just being a little more open and willing to let the reins loose a little bit more is
I think
probably
you were
the
giving me an example of when you felt like, okay, it's time for me to jump in and maybe move this discussion along. Can you share like what,
yeah.
what is that like when you kind of jump in and say, okay, maybe this is not like helpful for the community?
Yeah, I know. I think I see some community members in the chat. So hey team, thanks for, or encyclopedias, thanks for joining. But recently, after um, Kim Kardashian wore Marilyn Monroe's dress to the Met Gala, there was just some prolonged discussion in the community, the home, on people's thoughts on whether or not that was appropriate, what are the implications for fashion, for sustainable fashion, and the like. And it just got, I think, a little increasingly heated over a couple of days. And so just share the friendly message that it might be time to move on from the Kim Kardashian, Marilyn Monroe discourse.
And I think that's a valuable insight, though. Again, like these communities, you have to kind of let them run a little bit, like you said, and especially as a brand, I think that's really hard. I mean, that's something brands struggle with, even with sponsored content, is like they say, yes, I want sorry, it's New York, so there's obviously a fire truck trying to bust through my office. They say, oh, I want, I want to see exactly what the creator has to say about this, but then, they want to put all these controls on. So I think that's a great point. last question, I think relating to that, like, I know you set the rooms and everything up in a way that encouraged people to be posting regularly and coming back and engaging. Were you super clear about the rules? Like, do you have like kind of house rules? And what kind of do you do to coach those new community members to understand how to interact there?
Yeah, we do have some house rules. I forget what they are, but they're very like, top line, like be kind, be curious, be open, like something along those lines. But then each room has its own like purpose, and there's like a prompt for each one, so folks get a sense of what each room is meant to be.
Hmm.
And then when folks join, I'll send them, either myself or one of our encyclopedia members will send them a DM just saying, welcome, thanks for being here. Here are some ways you can engage, and then encourage them to have some fun.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. If y'all have questions for Cole, we're gonna, bring everyone back towards the end. So any questions around community building, I think especially around chat and group chat, which increasingly feels like going to be a much bigger part of the social landscape than I think it is right now. So any questions there, make sure to put them in Q&A and we'll get back. Thank you so much, Cole. And we're going to bring up Olivia. So Olivia, as she rolls in here, Olivia is actually a client of ours, works at Blink Fitness. I think they're doing really cool things on trying to build community inside of their gyms, and getting people to engage with the brand and with UGC and all these other things. So welcome, Olivia, and thank you.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me.
So for those, again, don't know, Olivia's at Blink. Your gyms are mostly New York based. What's the scope there?
Yeah, so we have about 100 gyms across the country, mostly New York area based. So that whether that's like Manhattan and the outer boroughs, New Jersey, we do have some in Texas and Houston and Dallas, Chicago, California, and we have one in Florida right now.
Okay. I think that, when we were talking last week about the conversation, I think that what struck me is obviously I opened talking about why, right? And making sure that, if you're going to build a community, you have a reason. And I think Blink is such a mission-driven brand. And again, as we look at like why people would join a community, shared values is part of it. Let's talk about what Blink's kind of mission is and what those values are in relation to the gym. And then we're going to talk about, how those values helped build a community.
Yeah, so Blink, as a company and as a gym, we're all about inclusivity, and that it's a very wide spanning word, but it really, we're talking about everything. For gym specifically, it's a lot of talk about body inclusivity, but gender, race, ethnicity, and body type, those are kind of the main things we focus on, and they're very important to us. And we want everyone in our gym, we want everyone to feel comfortable in our gym. We understand that a lot of people are on different journeys and different fitness journeys. And Blink is a great starting point, whether you're at the beginning of your journey, the end of your journey, or you're looking to start a new journey. And that kind of springboarded us into starting our influencer program. And we call our influencers Gymfluencers, because we had to give it a fun name. So our Blink Gymfluencers really epitomize that mission as well. They are, they're the stars of our show. They are coming to the gym every day. Most of them come to the gym every day. And they're showing what inclusivity means to them and how they're taking our message of inclusivity and talking about it on their platforms and to their larger community.
And as we talk about your Gymfluencers, we're going to use your term. So I love it. I think we're gonna talk to April next, and I think she's going to talk a lot about their influencer community as well and how they're building community with influencers. I think for y'all, you do have some working, probably influencers who are making money doing this as a job, and then it's also just dedicated, passionate customers, right? Just maybe describe exactly how you think about what makes a Gymfluencer outside of obviously their passion for the brand, but what do you look at as far as social following? Is that important to you? How's that play?
So we take this inclusivity approach. So a lot of our gymfluencers, they're everyday people. They're our gym members, but they're normally not doing this as a full-time job. This is kind of a fun passion project for them, like going to the gym and working out is a fun passion project for them. So we're not necessarily looking at follower count or impressions or anything like that. Those are important to us, like as an overall goal, but we're more looking at that they're posting like just overall on their channels, and then how are they weaving the gym into that. So we utilize the AMP platform with Fohr, and there's like a quote unquote application process, but we accept everyone into our program because we want everyone to have the opportunity to be a part of our group and to grow whether they want to grow their fitness following or just show other people what they're doing within the gym. We want to be there for them throughout that process.
Mm-hmm. And I think you started this program, correct?
Yes, I did.
So again, I think that like that's always like a scary part of like starting a new community. It's like, you don't want to throw a party and nobody show up. So like, what was the first, how did you kind of get the first 20 people to raise their hand and say, yeah, I'll join that? What do you, and then what are you doing kind of more regularly to try and find, like Cole said, he's kind of taken those like most engaged followers and trying to pull them into this community. How are y'all finding your gymfluencers?
So like Cole mentioned, he was talking that there's people that post or comment on every video that a brand could be talking about. And we found that as well, that we had engaged followers who were always liking our posts or commenting or tagging us in their own posts. And we look through all that content for UGC and repurposing on our social channels and on like other ancillary marketing assets that we make, for whether that's for email or our app, things like that. And so we saw that there was a big group of people who were tagging us, and a lot of those people were the same week after week, day after day. And so we noticed that we thought that there could be a need for this, or people would be interested. And we had been working with a group of gymfluencers, or they were influencers and now they're gymfluencers, but on a paid basis. And so we did have a group of people who we knew would be interested, but we just started posting about it on social media. We launched actually about a year ago in July, and July is Blink Fitness's Member Appreciation Month. So we thought, why not go out to our members in the month that we're talking about them the most and say, hey, do you want to be a part of a larger community? Do you want to, work with us on a more one-on-one basis? We do offer some incentives to be a part of the program. So we thought that was the initial kind of ask was, you give us content, we'll give you, a t-shirt, or we'll help with your membership costs if that's something that you're interested in, or doing PT, getting involved in our personal training program. So that was how we initially launched it. And it's grown a lot from there. People are just they're just posting. We don't even have to ask now, and people just post.
Yeah, we love that. And what are you doing month to month, to keep that audience engaged? I think you mentioned a few things of some of what your, the prizes and kind of perks that you can get, but how are you, what are you asking of that community? And what are you then how are you leveraging them?
Yeah, so every month we go out to our gymfluencers with a general ask. So for July, we're working on our July program right now. It's Member Appreciation Month, and we have a program that we're going to be running called Free Friend Friday. So we are asking people, come to the gym with your friend and show us how you're working out together. So we went out to our gymfluencers and said, hey, if you bring a friend to the gym and post about it, let everyone know that in July, anyone can bring a friend to the gym. It's not just, you don't have to have a certain membership type to do that. Another ask that we have for July is about gym fails. So we want people to be able to learn from each other's content as well. So did you, for example, did you try to put too much weight on the rack and then you couldn't lift the bar, and what happened? Or do you have a funny gym fail where your shoelaces came untied while you were running on the treadmill, something like that? We want people to be able to learn from each other and be able to laugh at their gym fails as well. Yeah. So if people are interested in posting, they can post about us. They don't have to take our prompt every month. They can post about whatever they want. But we do offer some fun incentives if people decide to go with our prompt for the month.
And again, I love that it ties back to the mission, even talking about your fails and kind of normalizing that, bringing a friend. I think that's so important that it ties back into that inclusivity, into that idea that not everyone working out is some chiseled Adonis or something.
Yeah, and we know going to the gym is hard. We know it's a hard thing to do. A lot of the marketing team members, I'll admit it, it's hard for me to go to the gym. So bringing a friend to the gym, or having someone send me a note, once a month or something, saying, hey, if you get to the gym and you post about this, we'd love to see it. It helps people get up and get out there.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I love how you're using AMP again, short plug for Fohr, but AMP's a tool where you can, onboard influencers and ambassadors, and once they're there, manage it, brief them, message them, but you also, it saves every post that they create. So then you can pull reports and see their content without having to go through your tagged posts and create all these Google Docs and all of that madness. So it's a short ad break for Fohr, but thank you so much again. Questions on, I think, engaging customers and bringing customers in and creating community, and working with them around kind of perks and things like that. Great questions for Olivia. Throw those in and we'll bring her back in 10 minutes or so. Thank you, Olivia. And we're gonna bring on April here. So hello, April, as she gets all set up. So April's at ILIA Beauty, which is, absolutely killing it. And I think doing something really interesting with the influencers that I work with. So, working with quite a few influencers throughout the year, paid and unpaid. And I think April has some really unique viewpoints on how to create community inside of the influencers that you're working with, and not just treating them like a group of impressions. So welcome.
Hi, everyone. I recognize a lot of names in the chat, so excited to be here.
We love that. So yeah, let's talk about how you specifically think about community, because again, you're thinking about it in a different way than maybe Olivia was. What are you trying to do when you're thinking about building community?
Yeah, the community for ILIA has always been really important. I think it's important across all the marketing that we do, especially for me and my team. Fostering a really inclusive influencer community that's excited about the brand, that feels like a deeper personal connection to the brand. I think it's also really important on our social side. I know this is going to be mostly influencer focused, but we have a fabulous social team that responds to DMs within 30 minutes. Community is really a priority on both sides.
And with the influencer community specifically, it's fairly large, your kind of list of people that you have worked with. And just for context, if you're willing to share, just kind of what are we talking about here when you think about your influencer community and what you're trying to manage there?
Yeah, I would say throughout the year, we're touching anywhere from 3,000 to 3,500 influencers in some way. But, when we take a closer look at who's our engaged active community, maybe that's 400 to 600 influencers that are receiving almost all of our new launches, that are actively asking us for restocks, that we're closely in touch with.
And I think, again, this is, I think what's so important is so many brands will work with an influencer and then they just never communicate or engage with them again. And it is a relationship. It's a two-way street. Of course, we tell influencers all the time that, if you've worked with the brand on a sponsored post, you should be doing some organic stuff, and kind of giving back a little bit, pull them back in and get them to do another sponsor thing with you. But I think it sounds like in the last, especially year or so, you focused, instead of saying, ooh, can we get this community of 3,500 influencers to 7,000 this year? You said, what if we deepened the relationships with the 3,500? So tell me what you did there, because I know it involved going around the country a bit and doing some in person. So tell me about what you did to kind of deepen those relationships.
Yeah, the tour of ILIA. a big goal for us this year, I think, ILIA's been around for 11 years. We're a clean makeup brand, but really in the last 2 years, I would say there's a lot more competitors entering the clean makeup category, where we've been in this game for a long time, but rather than focus on continuing to grow, which is always a priority, I think we were like, as more competitors are entering the space, how can we go deeper with the existing community that we have, and really sell them out on ILIA for life? I mean, they've known ILIA, but now they're also like, oh, what's this brand and this brand and this brand? And so it's kind of like saying, hey, like, we're your first love. How can we like deepen this relationship? So for us, events are a really big part of our strategy, I would say, and really important to us as a team, and connecting with the community in person. So I think brands have a misconception that events can be so expensive, and they're really not. They don't have to be like, we're not a showy brand, I would say. We're not like, doing crazy expensive trips, or we're focused more on just like really getting to know the people that we're working with behind email every day. So this past year, we focused on, aside from New York and LA, some of our like biggest secondary markets. So we went to Chicago, we went to Dallas, Austin, Scottsdale, Nashville, and quite a few others. I think we did about 15 events last year. And it was just such an amazing experience to really relationship build with influencers that aren't just in New York and LA. And I think, the resonating feedback was like, wow, we haven't had a brand here in 2 years, or wow, we haven't had a brand here in 5 years, or this is the first brand event that I've ever been to. It's kind of like that kind of feedback, which is really special to hear. And it's nice for them to know, like, this is April. Aside from this is just ILIA, like, I know the face that I'm talking to behind the screen. And I think it goes such a long way, and opens up our team to be exposed to more influencers to work with in a paid capacity. Like, we're seeing, oh, wow, like, I can only get so much of someone over email when I'm seeing them in person and they're telling me about, what they do, their artistry. I'm like, oh yeah, this is someone maybe we should work with.
Yeah. And I think that like, it's such a like, it's such a thing that I think should be focused more on, is this like ambassador churn, right? That like, I think you're in this like perfect example of kind of what we were talking about. Like, when you're a brand that's like innovative and was maybe one of the first of its kind, it is easier to build a community, right? If you're one of the first clean beauty brands, then anyone interested in clean beauty is going to feel a connection with you, right? And so now the market's matured, and maybe people aren't feeling as much of a pull because, yeah, they've worked with a couple of competitors and they're being invited to events and they're doing sponsored posts, and there's just more choice. And so I think that like really interesting to say, no, let's double down and let's make sure we try and like nurture this group that we've already invested so much into, instead of going out again and finding 1,000 other people that may or may not actually care as much about the brand, right?
Yeah.
And if you felt like, coming off of that tour, which sounds exhausting, have you seen the difference? Like, from a business perspective, right? If you're sitting and you're talking to, the kind of upper management there, and looking at these events, like, how are you proving that this works outside of the like, hey, at this event we got a bunch of content impressions?
Yeah, it's interesting because I kind of like, I did like a short case study for our internal team about like the trickle effect of these events. Of course, like, even when you divide the cost of the event by all the posts that result from it, it's still like far worth it. Plus you're touching like, 40 to 60 influencers versus a paid campaign where maybe you're working with 10. But I think like, what we saw, especially in these secondary markets, are influencers going home, they're unboxing their gift bag, but in the following weeks, they're doing like a full ILIA routine of what they got at the event the week before. And it's resulting in like really this brand love and experiencing the product. I think that's the other key thing with events is, it's tough to get people's attention over email. It's tough even with gifting and mailers. Like, half the things I receive, I'm like not really reading the pamphlet. So when you have that face-to-face time with people that, and you can bring someone in from your sales team or your founder or a makeup artist who can really explain like the formulas and the products, it goes so much further with them to like really understand what the brand's about. And then they go home and they're like, oh my gosh, guys, this is the best serum ever. And they really understand why versus unboxing a product at home.
Right. Yeah, I love that. And I think as you think about growing it, right? Because you're not, obviously you're doing more than just refocusing. I think you have an interesting, you had an interesting point about how y'all are thinking about getting into new communities. And I think thinking about taking clean beauty and what you're doing into maybe communities that are less, have had less exposure to competitors and things like that. So how are you, what's that looking like? What are the communities you're looking at? And how do you go into a new place? I think that can be really hard. I know I felt it with Fohr, right? That like, if you tell someone who works at a beauty brand, hey, I work at Fohr, they probably are like, oh, I've heard of Fohr. But if I like, talk to somebody who's in, like, I don't know, pharma or something, they're not going to know. So how do you get into those new communities and make a splash?
Yeah, I think it's just like finding the right groups of people that make sense for the product. We just launched a sunscreen about a month and a half ago, sunscreen and vitamin C, which is like a super universal product and everyone needs sun protection. So, for that launch, we're looking at what are some communities that need to wear sunscreen, which is everyone. So we were like, outdoor enthusiasts or athletes or people who are passionate about gardening or just like people who spend more time outdoors, which isn't maybe a typical community we go after. And I think, Youth to the People does a great job of looking at like athletes or musicians or other like niche groups of people. So, how many people wear makeup daily? Like there are so many communities outside of the core beauty and fashion community that we often look at that are still using the product. So why not like tap into those influencers?
And when you go into those communities, are you finding people that you feel like are great ambassadors for that community? And are you doing paid? Like, how are you getting that initial penetration to even, have people like know the name? Because I imagine there's like, it gets easier to gift and all of those things once a community kind of gains an understanding of who you are, what you're about.
Yeah, I mean, I think ILIA has been really lucky to have this like great word of mouth spread over the last few years. So now people are starting to be like, what's that brand? I've heard of that. Sounds familiar. I saw someone post about it. So I think tapping into some of those like newer niche communities, maybe they've heard of the brand, but they haven't tried it. And, maybe they're not being inundated with beauty products. So I think like sometimes it goes a bit further to work with people who aren't constantly working with beauty brands. And I find like we haven't done a ton of like paid partnerships, I would say, with these niche communities. I think it starts as like gifting, or we gifted the sunscreen to like a Wimbledon booth over the summer, which is like a great way to reach different athletes. And I think it's like slowly getting into the right doors and seeing where it goes from there. Who knows where next year, if we're doing paid partnerships with athletes or musicians or different groups of people.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you. I can bring everyone back on camera here. And April, maybe stick with you. I think, Rachel, hopefully your question got answered as far as what the metrics are. You can let us know in chat if April didn't fully answer that. There was a question just really quickly on like, what do those events look like? Were you doing them in like, where were you doing them? How, that's a lot of events. Did you build a kind of like playbook that made it pretty easy to replicate?
Sort of. Usually, like for us, we love to find like up and coming areas or up and coming restaurants that we can work with. So usually it's like a cocktail event, like light bites, cocktails, usually like nighttime. I find, a lot of these communities are micro influencers that work full time, so they can't do events during the day. So usually like something nighttime, pretty low key, like not a full seated dinner, usually like mingling style. So people can meet each other, meet the team. And of course we always have like product involved. We usually have people from our field team there to shade match people so they can really experience the product.
Yeah, amazing. Olivia, there's a question around legal. Do the gym influencers sign a contract? What is kind of the agreement there? And does that change as you work with them, more regularly, et cetera?
Yes, so it really depends on how we work with the gym influencers. So some people who we work with on a more regular basis or who provide us with like more content than normal, or will send us specific videos, we might comp their membership. And for us, that would involve a legal contract. It's very simple. It's a template that we had received from our legal team, where we just list out kind of like the usage rights, what we're requiring from them, and in turn, what they're giving us, and then just the term of that agreement. There isn't, I think, asked also if there was like a specific SOW. It's fairly vague. We try to keep things very simple and not in super legal terms so everyone can understand them. I don't know if anyone's read a contract, but sometimes they're quite confusing. So we try to make it as simple as possible, but not all gym influencers have a legal contract with us.
Yeah, makes sense. Cole, I've got one for you here. I'm not sure who exactly this was pointed at, but I know I was talking about how for a brand, your social media following isn't a community. I have some thoughts on that, but I would love to hear kind of what you think. You know, you've experienced this difference of like a follower versus someone that joins your community. How do you kind of think about how that's different? And for the brands out there,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally. I definitely view my followers as a sort of like overall community, because many of them follow across platforms. So there is like a relationship there. Most of my followers, or I guess anyone that follows me, is just opting into my content in general. And my content covers a range of topics, including my personal life, fashion, mental health and well-being, experiences in New York. But the Geneva home community that I'm more intentionally curating is very focused on fashion. So people that are joining that community are opting into me X fashion.
Yeah.
So it's definitely in my mind a subset.
Yeah. And yeah, I feel like, you know, when I said earlier that I feel like the word is misunderstood, I think even just thinking about like community management, that was the job title for so long if you ran a company's social. But it's, you know, I think it has changed a lot where like the people that follow you are interested in your products. Hopefully they're a customer, or they're, you know, they've just learned and they're like looking to learn more. I think it's you know, turning them into a community takes a lot more effort. Most brands, I think the problem is their Instagram, their social accounts in general are self-serving. They exist to try and sell more shit instead of help the community. But if you asked yourself, like, before I publish this post, is this helping? Is this helping the people who are going to see it learn something, be you know, entertained or inspired or not? Or is it just letting people know that I have a new product, right? So if everything is just like about can I as a brand get something from this, then that's not a community. Your followers can be a community, but they aren't like just naturally a community. Okay, there is a question here about again for Olivia around how they spread the word. Is it social only? Are you doing anything else in person? Are you all kind of, obviously you have 100 locations, a lot of opportunity to do that. Is that something you're doing now or thinking about?
Yeah, so a lot of our outreach right now is via social, because that was kind of how our program started. But we have, we call them clock towers in our gyms. They're basically TV screens that are at the center of the gym. And we have, I guess you would call like an ad for the Gymfluencer program on that, just with some information about it. It's a lot of word of mouth as well from our Gymfluencers to other members, from our gym team to other members, our gym team. They're some of like the greatest proponents for Blink because they're on the floor every day, where like I sit in our corporate office, so I'm not interacting as often as our field members are. And so I know April was mentioning this too, but they really spread the word about the program as well. So we do a combination of online and offline.
Okay, excellent. Question, April. Jonah's asking about gifting. So organic seeding to kind of grow knowledge. Jonah's got a new brand that's very cool, which I love. But yeah, you all do a decent amount of gifting. How do you do it? How do you find, are you doing blind gifting? Are you reaching out beforehand? Kind of how's it work at ILIA?
Yeah, we're always reaching out beforehand, but we do a ton of gifting. It's definitely how the brand's community started. And I think it's the best, easiest way to get in influencers' hands for the best price. But for us, we always reach out beforehand. I think influencers don't like when they don't know that something's coming. Also, people are moving around so much these days, so confirming addresses is really important. But I would say we're constantly gifting. We gift every single day, but for major launches, we're sending out a launch mailer, and then throughout the year, we're just constantly restocking people on product. We're going out to people to introduce them to the brand for the first time. We're doing kind of like re-engagement campaigns where we're looking at people maybe who haven't talked about ILIA in a while and trying to send them something new. So all for gifting.
Yeah. There is only a couple minutes left. So question on tech stack. I think obviously, I'd be remiss not to obviously again plug Fohr. We have built a platform to manage these programs completely. So from having a centralized page where people can apply to be an ambassador with an application question, it connects their social accounts. So then it pulls in content from TikTok, Instagram, Insta stories, Twitter, kind of all of their platforms, sorts them, creates profiles. You can do outreach, you can brief people, you can pull reports. Obviously, I'm not going to let anyone else suggest anything they use to manage their ambassador programs, because that's because this is our webinar. I own the company. I set the rules. This is my community today. So I think Fohr rules, and you should do that. And Weldon, there's a question here about not being able to get an answer from Facebook about something. Yeah, Facebook is very difficult. I would suggest trying to find somebody on Instagram that works at Meta and get in that way. Not great advice, but like sending an email to Meta is not going to do anything, unfortunately. Look, y'all were fantastic. Loved this whole conversation. I hope everyone learned a lot. I know I did. If there are any questions for the panelists, we're going to share this video. You can find them all on Instagram. If they want, they can share their email in the chat here. I know April already did, but thank you all so much for sharing. I really enjoyed the conversation, learned a lot, and we're going to continue talking about this because we think it's a huge opportunity, and it's still really early if your brand hasn't started really thinking explicitly about how to build a community of influencers and customers, and how to engage and sustain and grow that community. That's okay. Most people aren't. But 5-10 years from now, I think it is going to be one of, if not the kind of dominant thing that brands are thinking about as paid media gets more and more difficult and more scarce, and it becomes more important to get these kind of kind of more personal connections with people. So thank you all so much. Thank you all for joining, and have a great rest of the day. Cheers.